Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. Oh, they're still on freaking Signalgate everywhere. We just move on. It's not going away. The Democrats are so excited. They've got something juicy that makes the Trump administration look bad to talk about. And for some reason, the Trump administration does keep talking about it, which just stop. This is pointless. You have so many good things you can talk about that don't involve this egg on the face situation. But they all are, so we will too, to some extent. Way more delicious is what happened on the Hill yesterday with NPR and PBS. My God, if you listen to the AM update this morning, that's our new morning show with just the news headlines, which I think you'll like. My friend Donna, she listens to the show every day. My closest friend from law school, she says, you're starting to get spicier. Your personality's starting to come through more. And first off, we started out Walter Cronkite-like with our delivery. Now we're getting a little looser. In any event, I think you'll like it. We talked about some of the sound bites. We played some of the sound bites. And oh my God, we have so many more. It was so fun. It's wonderful to see these left-wing hacks get called out explicitly for their left-wing hackism. And we'll do more of that here. Plus, it's March Madness, which means it's hack madness, too. Speaking of hacks, it's hack madness. What do I mean? Well, what media hacks are performing well in their Ruthless brackets? There's only one group of fellas that have the answer to that, and they are Josh Holmes, Michael Duncan, John Ashbrook, and Comfortably Smug, the hosts of the Ruthless podcast or variety program. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. 1 in 2 adults have high blood pressure, and many don't even know it. That's a ticking time bomb. But here's the good news. You have the power to take control naturally with 120 Life. 120 Life is a blend of great tasting superfruit juices that can actually help lower your blood pressure naturally. 120 Life is formulated with ingredients that have been shown to support healthy blood pressure levels. It's trusted by hundreds of health professionals, and people have seen real, measurable results. You can try it yourself, risk-free, with their 2-week trial. Just go to 120life.com and use the code MK to save 15% and get free shipping. You can track your progress with a simple blood pressure monitor, watch your numbers drop, and feel the difference. They are so sure that 120 Life can noticeably lower your blood pressure in 2 weeks that they will give you your money back if you're not satisfied. Go to 120life.com. That's 120life.com. And remember to use code MK to save 15% off your order. Great to see you guys.
Hey, great to see you,
Thanks
Megyn.
for having us.
I love the NPR story so much. And I hate the Signal story. Not because it makes the Trump administration look bad. I'm happy to talk about stuff that makes the Trump administration. I don't care. It's like, I'm obviously a Trump supporter. Still, the news is the news. But this one's just so pointless. No one's saying anything new. We're going back and forth arguing about whether it was war plans or attack plans. And is Mike Waltz more culpable because he appears to have added Jeffrey Goldberg to the thread? Or is it Pete Hegseth who, released, was it classified information or is it not classified because as defense secretary, he's declassifying it by sharing, I don't care. The Houthis are dead, which we're really happy. The average person, dead Houthis, cool. And probably should take it off Signal for the next one and get rid of the nasty reporter. Don't you think that's how most normal people are reacting to this?
100%. No question about it. I mean, we did our entire show basically on this today. And look, the upshot of this thing is that every administration makes some kind of mistake. The previous administration, their mistake cost 13 Marines their lives. Yeah. This administration added a reporter to a text chain. Yeah. and then happened to run a flawless mission against the Houthis, which was a 17-month in the making problem where they had 175 separate attacks on U.S. Navy personnel while the Biden administration did absolutely nothing. Donald Trump's in office all of 8 weeks. Boom, taken care of. Suez Canal reopened. An Iran-funded terror operation destroyed. Okay, in the matter of scandal, where does this rank? I mean, for me, overwhelming success. Now, granted, they shouldn't have any sort of external communication with the heads of the national security apparatus that includes a reporter. They know that. They acknowledge as much literally the day afterwards.
Clearly did not mean it. They did not want to include it.
Right. And the president, in fact, took it straight on. He said, here's the way that I would prefer we handle this. And he talked about the lead ceilings and lead walls, basically describing the Situation Room. And that should make perfectly clear to anybody going forward the way the president sees this. It was a screw up. He's standing by his people because, oh, by the way, they executed a perfect mission, which was the whole point of this. And by the way, an afterthought in the media.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, that's why you stand by your national security, folks. Clearly a screw up, but we'll do things differently and move on. The story's done as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, right? It's like they want a scalp. And, yesterday, with all due respect to Dave Portnoy, they actually raised Dave Portnoy's name at the White House press briefing. Yeah. Some reporter was like, well, Dave Portnoy was laughing about the fact that they took his commentary and elevated it to the presidential level. Like, well, what do you have to, Dave Portnoy's calling for someone to get fired. He wants Mike Waltz to be fired. What are we doing? If Dave Portnoy tells me not to go to a certain place for pizza, I'm very interested. If he has something interesting to say about sports, about which I know nothing, I'm interested. His social commentary is fun, but whether someone needs to get fired over Signalgate, I'm out. And I certainly would never be so dumb as to raise that with the White House, which I think Portnoy agrees with me on.
Yeah. I think that pretty much gives away the whole game of what is exactly happening right now with our media. You've got the establishment media that's in that White House briefing room, and they're concerned with Dave Portnoy's thoughts on what happened here.
Only because it runs against Trump. They don't care about that
ordinarily. Is they don't care about actual news. They don't care about what Americans got from that story, which is, oh, wow, terrorists got blown up. Terrific. They're trying to make this like some processed, gossipy, juicy story when there's nothing there to discuss. They're like, well, Dave Portnoy said this. It's like, maybe you're a little bit way too online here. You're using your time in the White House press briefing room to talk about Dave Portnoy's thoughts.
I know. And Portnoy is a heck of a showman. He's a heck of a showman, but he's no showman compared to Donald Trump. And that's my recommendation of the Trump administration is change the conversation. Yep. Mm-hmm. You just arrested one of these top gang leaders of MS-13 in Virginia. I don't know, bring them into the briefing room. We can dissect all of his tattoos. We can ask Robert Costa, do you think this guy is a gang member of MS-13? He has an MS-13.
What does Dave Portnoy think?
Calligraphy on his chest.
Dave Portnoy, is this or is this not MS-13? Yeah, they're trying, but that won't do it because that's good news for the Trump administration. And the left-wing media that's driving this story won't go along with it. But what's been remarkable to me, because if you search all the news sites, and obviously that's my job, they're all still on it. Everyone. Everything online, all the print papers, completely on Signalgate. And so are all of the more establishment Republican media outlets, right? Like the Wall Street Journal's all over it. National Review's got 4 pieces up on how somebody needs to get fired and how terrible this is. I love National Review, but they're really turning into never Trumpers. They're starting to read much more like the Dispatch, and they should watch it. I love those guys, but they need to rein that in a bit because it's all Trump bashing. But my takeaway is, the people who wanted, and it's in particular about Hegseth to have nothing to do with the Pentagon, and were totally against his elevation to that post, are the loudest critics in this scandal. They think there's blood in the water. They're trying to change the conversation from Mike Waltz to Pete Hegseth, even though, and I don't think either one should be fired, but even though it was Mike Waltz who added this Jeffrey Goldberg to the Atlanta. Pete Hegseth didn't do that. Pete Hegseth trusted the national security advisor that this was an appropriate place to have this conversation and that he, who had created the group Walls, had screened everyone appropriately. That was Pete's sin, right? And then had a frank conversation about the plans, as was obviously requested by Mike Walls and the others who were on there, including the vice president. But I really think it's all these people who hated Pete who will not let this die because they think they can get a scalp. And I'm here to tell you, it's not gettable. He's not getting fired. You're going to have to cry harder.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. And you look back at what did Joe Biden do when it comes to the Houthi terrorists? He took them off the terrorist list. What did Pete Hegseth do? He killed them. And so this is exactly what people voted for. They wanted action out of this president. It's what Trump told people he was going to do. He came in and he started acting. And I mean, we talk about the mainstream media, and you're saying that they don't want the conversation to go away. Well, the one guy who's going away is this top leader at MS-13. Another action that the president has taken. We talked about it a second ago. But like, this guy is acting every single day in a way that voters wanted, and that's why his approval rating and the right track number that everybody follows is so high. I don't know if you saw this poll from Marist just this week. It showed that the right track number is higher than it's been in 20 years, and Democrats are scrambling. And when you say Democrats, you have to include the mainstream media in that group of people. They're also scrambling, trying to figure out what they can do to get out from under Trump's popularity, and just incredible start in these first 2 months.
I think it's also worth a little trip down memory lane when we're talking about the press here. And you're right. They're trying to get a scalp, whether it's Pete or Waltz or whatever. They ask incessantly about whether or not one of them are going to get fired. How many of those same journalists talked about Afghanistan withdrawal in the same way? Who was going to get fired?
Right.
Of course, nobody got fired. Right. And it cost 13 Marines their lives. But also the story was sort of a process story about, well, Trump wanted to get out of Afghanistan too. Everybody wanted to do this thing and move on. And you look at some of the Democrats, like Chuck Schumer, we highlighted on our show. He had exactly one thing on all of X over the last 5 years that contained the word Afghanistan, where there was no call for an investigation. There was no discussion about what went wrong. He condemned terror. Right. And now he's saying that every single American's life is at risk because of an operation that happened 10 days ago, which was a resounding success. Like this it strains credibility.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%. And so now you've got Jeffrey Goldberg moving into saintly status of The Atlantic, this complete left-wing hack who has never seen Republican catnip that he hasn't sniffed and rolled around in and peddled to his viewers as real, right? From Russiagate to the fawning piece he did on Mark Milley for like holding the line against this dictatorial Trump. The guy who was going to tell the Chinese if we were going to unleash an attack on them. Which, by the way, no one was even planning. Only in Mark Milley's head was Trump going to go attack the Chinese. We didn't attack the Chinese. Trump didn't give the order to go attack the Chinese. But Mark Milley decided to take it upon himself to, in a treasonous communication, tell his counterpart in China, if we are going to drop any bombs on you, I will give you the heads up.
That's
which is
crazy.
Totally, I mean, insubordinate is an understatement. But he's a patriot in the eyes of The Atlantic. Okay, so Jeffrey Goldberg goes out there like, I'm the dignified one here, okay? They added me because I'm important. Obviously, I'm in everybody's phone, not mine. Mike Waltz is even saying not in his. Now, I have to say, to be honest, that sounds like bullshit to me. He does. I mean, I don't know how he'd get added from Mike Waltz's phone if he weren't in there. Waltz, in a very awkward exchange with Laura Ingraham, seemed to be trying to say, it'd be like if I texted you something, Holmes, and said, hey, great having you on the show today. Doug, my husband, wanted to send you something, and like I CC'd Doug on the communication. You know how like I added him in, so you didn't have Doug in the in your contacts, but like sometimes your phone would recognize, this is Doug, right? Like it might say at a future point, if you're searching for a Doug, it might pull that up because there is some AI on your phone that does that for you. He seemed to be suggesting Goldberg was part of a different conversation he had with somebody, and that's somehow how I have no idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to my main point. All these thoughts. So Goldberg goes out there and he's like, I didn't want to do any of it. I'm so sad that they're making me do this, but I feel, an obligation to tell you how unsecure these comms are and that I had war plans. And he went all over the news media on Tuesday saying, I'm not going to release the stuff they texted about the war plans because it's too incendiary. It's going to compromise our military. So that I won't do. And here's a little bit of how he sounded on Tuesday. Watch, Satu.
The last thing I want is to see American lives endangered in any way. Which is why you didn't include it.
And Jeffrey, you rightly didn't publish, of course, the details of everything you saw in that exchange, so I don't expect you to repeat them here.
Again, I don't want to go into details because I don't think it's responsible to put out operational issues. And
as much as I enjoy national security investigative reporting, I don't need strike plans 2 hours before a launch. That should not be coming into my phone. I mean, I take this stuff very, very seriously.
The White House press secretary have said you're lying. Have said there are no war plans there. Have said there's no classified information. So the obvious question is, shouldn't you now demonstrate it? Shouldn't you publish the text?
No, because they're wrong. I have a pretty clear standards in my own behavior of what I consider information that I consider to be in the public interest, even if it's technically classified or not. I'm sticking to my principles here.
Sticking to his principles. Okay. Yeah. So just for the record, that was him and the messaging up and down television on Tuesday. For whatever it's worth, this is what I said on Tuesday. By the way, I think we're T-minus like 72 hours before Jeffrey Goldberg releases it anyway, with maybe a couple of things redacted. But I don't think he's going to stay in this like, I'm above it all and I won't release it. I don't think he can help himself. And I was 100% right, except for the redacting
like 24
part.
hours later.
Yeah, except for the redacting. Right. So he releases it all. Virtually 99.99% has been released. I think he withheld the one name of the one guy. But it wouldn't be responsible. I take this stuff very, very seriously. No, I shouldn't publish it. It'd be wrong. I have clear standards. Out the window. Not a single redaction. No. Read it all. Please click on The Atlantic.
It's the kind of turn that would make Nancy Kerrigan wish she could do it. I mean, it was a full double axle, triple toe loop. The guy in 24 hours was so esteemed, and he's never going to do it because of principle. And then he's like, you know what? Yeah, here it is. Let's get some more publicity.
Also, special hats off to your researchers, Megyn, who had to sift through Tim Miller and MSNBC and all of that. I mean, that's enough to give somebody brain damage. There should be some kind of a comp reward for something like that.
Hazard pay.
It's unbelievable. So this guy, he's been turned into some sort of a hero, and pick your poison. I mean, if you are pro-Europe, you're blaming this all on J.D. Vance. Like, he said terrible things about our best friends, about how they needed to take care of this. If you are anti-Pete Hegseth, you're saying he needs to get fired. A lot of the sort of more neocon-y guys much prefer Tim Walz. I mean, sorry, not Tim Walz, Mike Walz. So there's like different constituencies coming out. And Mike Walz with Laura Ingraham claimed he will get to the bottom of it, which I believe we will. And he said he's brought in a special helper to do that. Take a listen here. SOT 3.
It's embarrassing, right. Yes. We're going to get to the bottom of it. I just talked to Elon on the way here. We've got the best technical minds looking at how this happened. But I can tell you for 100%, I don't know this guy. I know him by his horrible reputation, and he really is the bottom scum of journalists. And I know him in the sense that he hates the president, but I don't text him. He wasn't on my phone, and we're going to figure out how this happened.
Okay. I guess it's good to have Elon and his tech bros, right, weigh in, but like, they need to stop going on shows and talking about it. Do they? Totally. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Just
no.
Stop it.
Also, I don't know. Like, Elon flies rockets to Mars. He might be a little overqualified for this job. But I love how Elon is now like generic IT guy for the entire government.
Like his shirt says.
It's like the way you guys treat me around here. Like, the internet goes out and you're like, Duncan, the router.
Did you plug it in? Did you take the plug out? That's it.
That's like when I married Doug. He was running an internet security software firm, like they would protect against hackers, that kind of thing. And my mom would call up and be like, my browser disappeared. Where's my browser? Doug's like,
my email's running slow, Elon. I'm not getting, everything's going to junk.
Okay, but here is the most offensive, absurd take of all. Someone I've never heard of. You guys are in the biz, so you might have. Democrat representative of Texas. What's going on with Texas? We got Jasmine Crockett, and we got this loser, Jimmy Gomez, who had this take on it. at a hearing with the CIA director and others, but this exchange is with CIA Director John Ratcliffe.
To your knowledge, do you know whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information?
Oh my God.
You're an idiot.
I don't have any knowledge of Secretary Hegseth's personal habits.
Director Radcliffe, same question, yes or no?
No, I'm going to answer that. I think that's an offensive line of questioning. The answer is no. I find it interesting that you want to. I'm going to answer. You asked me a question. You want an answer?
No, listen.
You don't want to focus on the good work that the CIA is doing, that the intelligence community.
Director, I reclaim my time. I have huge respect for the CIA, huge respect for our men and women in uniform. But this was a question that's on the top of minds of every American, right? He stood in front of a podium in Europe holding a drink. So, of course, we want to know if his performance is compromised.
Was his performance compromised because of a successful strike?
Back. Mister, I bring my...
you want to know? You want to talk about accepting responsibility? Do you think you should accept responsibility for a successful strike to make Americans safer? You want to focus on...
Unbelievable. By the way, apologies to Texas. He's, of course, actually from California. Can you believe the nerve of this guy?
No.
I can. The Democrats are in such bad shape. Pat Brooke mentioned it earlier, but their right now favorability rating is the worst it's been in over a generation. President Trump's favorability rating is the highest it has ever been. It's higher than it was on Election Day. The Democrats are trying to manufacture anything. This is beyond grasping at straws. They see that they are falling into a pit, and they're trying to grab anything they can. Anything that they think will let them get some kind of traction. Because since Election Day, they've been just getting steamrolled nonstop. Americans could not be more thrilled seeing criminals, illegals getting deported out of this country. The media doesn't want to talk about egg prices. Egg prices have halved in the past month. Yeah. The story that they were trying to push that, oh my God, Biden killed all these chickens and now Trump's caused the egg prices to go up. Everything that they've tried to get Trump on has failed. This is going to go down in the same line. They're going to try to make a story out of this, and I completely agree with you. The Trump administration should ignore this. Talk about the MS-13 guy you just arrested today and move on. Keep putting up W's for the American people.
This guy, Jimmy Gomez, according to a radio host in South Carolina, Brett Winterbull, was, before he entered electoral politics, a labor organizer. He was organizing labor. At the time, Pete Hegseth had a backpack on and a gun slung around his shoulder and was killing bad guys for us in Iraq and Afghanistan and down at Gitmo, dealing with the worst of the worst. So that's how Pete spent his formative adult years, while Jimmy was a mini Barack Obama trying to organize, in his case, labor. But he wants to besmirch Pete as a drunk because he says we saw him with the drink in his hand. What an absolute fucker. That is based on Pete standing up in front of a room full of people at a public event in which he was addressing, I can't remember what was the event, you guys? And like a whole
was
group
was this the NATO summit?
Yes.
Yeah. It was in Belgium. It might have been that. Anyway, look, he's saying this is him drinking booze. This idiot Matt Iglesias said, I assume this is the trick of the light, and he's not actually throwing back bourbon on camera, but it's interesting that the water looks brown. Meanwhile, it would have taken him 10 seconds to Google video from the event where it makes very clear the water was clear, like all water is, and that it was just a lighting trick. But like now it winds up in a congressional hearing as like he's been. This is so disgusting how they use this stuff to absolutely smear honest, hardworking men.
But it's also a perfect vignette into the larger problem that Democrats have when Smug was talking about their approval rating and what it is that they're talking about, this knee-jerk opposition to hugely popular things that President Trump is doing. Think about Jimmy's information flow. Right? Think about the information that comes to him on a day-to-day basis to, one, conclude that was, in fact, bourbon, and two, that it's on the top of minds of everyone he's talking to. Think about the information that has to go into that man's head in order to conclude those two things in a congressional hearing and not feel entirely humiliated by the question in the first place. These people they're wrecked. Their brain is just broken.
It's so deeply offensive that you would get up there and actually suggest, and only in Congress can you get away with this because you've got a liability shield from defamation, to actually basically call him a drunk. Say was he drunk when he was tweeting this shit? But if not for nothing, there's zero about the actual text that suggests in any way, shape or form that anyone was impaired while having this discussion. It's absolutely defamatory. Mm-hmm. But they get away with it. To pick up on the point you just made, Smug, everyone's favorite pollster, or at least poll analyst, Harry Enton, was over on CNN doing a bit on what you just said on Trump's approval, and here's a bit of it.
His net favorable rating right now comes in at -4 points. Compare that to where he was when he won in November of 2024 when he was at -7 points, or March of 2017 when he was at -10 points. So when you compare Trump against himself, he's actually closer to the apex than he is to the bottom of the trough. And of course, that's so important because Donald Trump, historically speaking, has had his numbers underestimated. So let's take a look at the percentage of the country who say that we're on the right track. It's actually a very high percentage when you compare it to some historical numbers. What are we talking about? According to Marist, 45% say that we're on the right track. That's the second highest that Marist has measured since 2009. How about NBC News? 44%. That's the highest since 2004. Wow. The bottom line is the percentage of Americans who say we're on the right track is through the roof.
Yeah. His body movements are so great. They make the hits, don't they? He's like through the roof, and he's like, it's so high, it's down low, and it's segmented, like, it's out the window. He's very entertaining to watch.
A little theater goes a long way, particularly on CNN. It makes the rest of the stuff go down a little easier.
Well, it really does, and he did that on a morning show on CNN. And so what I like to think about is what your typical CNN viewer did for the rest of the day after learning that information.
Speaking of
They did not start off on the right foot when they found out that Donald Trump, the guy they hate so much, is actually very, very popular.
Yeah, they're not feeling about Harry the way the rest of us are. He's from the Bronx, which is another thing. I love the New York City accent. I love it. But Brooklyn, Bronx, it's utterly charming to me. Okay, enough of that. Signalgate will go away. No one will be fired, and we'll be fine. However,
we are fine.
I don't know if NPR is going to be okay. I think NPR is about to lose its taxpayer funding based on what I saw yesterday, right? I think it's going to, based on what Trump tweeted and what we saw yesterday. It was so great to watch this woman, Catherine Marr. Have you, speaking of smug, right? She was so smug. She was oozing contempt and superiority, and trying to be thank you so much for raising a thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to respond to that. Now let me lie for 2 minutes about how it never happened. I appreciate you giving me the chance to lie about how I never did the controversial thing. I'm very grateful to you for bringing up. And then these congressmen just kept hitting her with, oh, you never did it? Oh, well, here's you saying you did it. And the best, there's so many good ones to choose from, but we might as well just kick it off with my new favorite congressman. He is from Texas. He's Brandon Gill. He's married awesome. To Dinesh D'Souza's daughter. I didn't know any of this. He is a stone cold assassin in that congressional seat. Watch him.
Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You put that on Twitter in January of 2020.
Apologies, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I no doubt that your tweet there is correct, but I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't? You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. How white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to be to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I have never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, "Yes, the North. Yes, all of us. Yes, America. Yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt. Yes, reparations. Yes, on this day."
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
Oh my God.
I love him so much. I need to know him. He's got to come on this show. I have to tell him how much I deeply admire him.
He's an absolute rock star. So he was elected class president for the incoming freshmen, and for good reason. It's because of that. He showed up and he wanted to be the tip of the spear. He doesn't take any garbage. I mean, every time you see the left try to come up with some dirty trick to go after President Trump, to go after Republicans, or like this, try to rob taxpayers like NPR has been doing, pushing their fake hoaxes, he holds them accountable. That's what you want from a member of Congress. He's off to a phenomenal start, and you love to see it. You want to see this is the people that we are sending to Congress.
What I love most about it, Smug, is you can tell he's enjoying it.
Yeah. Oh, it's big smiles.
He's getting a crack in the smile as he's going back. It's like, oh, I got a receipt for that one too.
Yo, that's the best part. The cadence of it is fantastic. Yes. He's like, oh, but do you have? There's a tweet about it.
Yes, you did.
Good.
I love him. He's like,
so good.
Yeah, yes, you did. His lack of emotionality is what made it so good.
Totally.
He was just like, you did. You said that.
Yep.
You did tweet that. Here's the exact tweet. You did. You said you read that book. You said you took the whole day off and spent the day reading that book. And here's the thing that's so great about it is, so which is the lie? Were you lying when you said that you read these woke, annoying books time and time again to try to pander to left-wingers who you think are your fans? Was that a lie? Or are you lying today under oath when you're looking at me saying you never read these books? Because not only did you take the time to lie to all these people if you didn't read these books, but you actually tweeted it in front of, I don't know how many followers she has, probably hundreds of thousands. So the virtue signaling that she felt was important to do, to be like, I'm a leftist just like all of you, and I'm reading all your favorite insane books. Which is worse? If those were lies and she was just pandering, or if she really did that shit and then just lied under oath to Congress.
Yeah. I think it's pretty clear that she lied under oath to Congress. I mean, look at the organization that she's running. I mean, this is not somebody who's faking leftism. You had a deep commitment to it over a period of time that, I don't know, if you just flip on the radio, turn on, I mean, that's what it is, folks. That's what it is. There's no secrets there.
Remember the TED
Do we
Talk
think she read the case for reparations? I don't think she read the case for reparations. Go ahead, Ashbrook.
I remember the TED Talk she gave where she was trying to explain why truth doesn't matter, why leftist ideals are more important than truth.
Right. Yeah, that objectivity
and
gets in the way.
How annoying white men are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I what I loved most about that exchange is we all had this buddy in college who would black out so much, and then the next day you'd have to walk him through his evening, and he'd be like,
"Oh no."
That doesn't sound like me at all. I'd never do that.
The end of it is all right, who do I need to do to apologize?
Thank God that guy was never subjected to my new favorite representative. Would have killed him.
Although it probably went down exactly like that with his buddies.
Yeah.
It was like, well,
yes, you did.
Here's a picture of it.
You tweeted about it.
Yeah. I didn't know you were standing on the bar.
Yeah, you did. Here's more. First of all, I'll go back to the congressional hearing, but I will give you a little bit for old time's sake of Catherine Maher's TED Talk that you referenced in 2022. This is before she became the head of NPR. This is the stuff that got her the job. Watch.
That perhaps for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth might not be the right place to start. In fact, our reverence for the truth might be a distraction that's getting in the way of finding common ground and getting things done. Is because the truth of the matter is very often, for many people, what happens when we merge facts about the world with our beliefs about the world. So we all have different truths.
What the?
Yeah.
Yikes.
This is not extemporanea. She practiced that speech 37,000 times in front of the mirror so she could deliver it with that cadence and the in fact, folks, with that hushed tone.
It's like the worst HR person in corporate America showed up in your office and they're telling you why you have to shut your computer down. Right?
I mean, she's like, she's
and
the
making you go
embodiment
through all
problem.
the seminars. Go ahead, Smug.
She's the embodiment of the whole problem that the left has now found itself in. They've been completely siloed off from the majority of people. The way she talks, she's doing a TED Talk with such self-importance and explaining to people, here's the thing, there's lots of truths. You know, I run NPR. It's not important for me to give objective facts. We're talking about we need to get across the message that we want people to believe.
National Public Radio.
I'm not surprised at all that she has no memory of tweeting any of those things, because people like this, life is theater for these people.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just acting, right? And so, when you're an actor, sometimes you forget your lines.
Here's some more from Catherine Mayer over the years. Again, this is just over the past few years. Again, before she was made CEO, but I would suggest to you, this is why they made her CEO in January of 2024. Okay, on looting. I mean, sure, looting is counterproductive, but it's hard to be mad about protests not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression founded on treating people's ancestors as private property. On whiteness, I know that hysteric white woman voice. I was taught to do it. I've done it. It's a disturbing recognition. While I don't recall ever using it to deliberately expose another person to immediate physical harm on my own cognizance, it's not impossible. That is whiteness. She's got a rant about too many white men in business class and in the lounge. She's annoyed with seeing all the white people like herself and the guys, especially with the penises. She gets upset. I mean, there's, you name it, there's a tweet for it. Catherine Maher absolutely hates white people, but realistically, she doesn't. I think she's just faking. She's been faking for a long time, like all these other Upper West Side women who are the wokest that you can be, and who are being reflected in these polls as the only thing still propping up the Democratic Party, right? It's these woke, white women like Catherine Maher. Meanwhile, black people are like, would you stop that shit for the love of God?
I have a fantastic idea for her. Since she's so concerned about reparations and everything in BLM. We're tearing up BLM Plaza here in Washington, D.C. 16th Street is going to be restored to its former glory. But NPR has some fantastic real estate here in our nation's capital, a beautiful building in the heart of the city. I think we take off the words NPR and we put BLM.
Yeah, and we can just have everybody go there too. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't, we can just make it like basically housing.
Yeah.
Right? For everybody.
Yeah.
That'd be great. It'd be a service to the community. Maybe she'd be interested in that. I was sort of with her, though. When you were talking, Megyn, you were talking about the people that she cloisters herself around, and the white woman, the wine mom, essentially. She was like, "Oh, I know that voice." I was kind of with her on that. I mean,
okay, Karen.
That's pretty much it. That's exactly what annoys all of us.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like I've been that voice. Okay, what do you mean? Like, what specifically did you do? I want to know exactly. Get into more. That would have been a good follow up. Like, what exactly? You said you did this. Could you walk us through how and when you used the white woman voice and said all the things that you were taught? Who taught you that it's a disturbing recognition? And you're suggesting you did use it to deliberately expose another person to immediate physical harm? You might have done that. Who? Who got hurt? Why'd you do that? That is fucking racist. That's actually really upsetting. Like, you should not be the head of NPR or any other news organization.
Well, I remember one time she used that voice and said, "You're fired," to a guy named Uri Berliner, who had the temerity to say, maybe at NPR we should have another Republican or two. Maybe it shouldn't be 1,000 libs and Democrats.
Deep track.
Republican.
Deep track.
Good hit.
That's all. Here's a little bit more. Let's go to Representative Tim Burchett. This was one of the best. Side 8.
Why did you call President Trump a fascist and a deranged racist sociopath in 2020?
Congressman, I appreciate the opportunity to address this. I regret those tweets. I would not tweet them again today. They represented a time where I was reflecting on something that I believe that the president had said rather than who he is. I don't presume that anyone is a racist.
You don't believe anyone is a racist.
I don't start by presuming anyone is a racist, sir.
But thank you so much for asking me, because I love that. Why did you call him a racist, fascist sociopath? I regret that. That's I regret that. Bullshit. She doesn't regret that at all. She totally stands by every word of that.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to address all of these past comments. I can't thank you enough.
And I think the most important thing for everyone to take away from all this is you're paying her.
Yeah.
Your money is going to her against your will, and that has to stop. It has to stop immediately. This hearing was so important because everyone should have to see. This is what Doge is doing. They're getting vilified. They're getting attacked, terrorized across the country because they're bringing garbage like this to light. Mm-hmm. There's no reason hardworking people who go to work day in, day out are paying that woman's salary. That's completely unfair. It's wrong.
Yeah, it's supposed to be public information. It's there to try to get people educated on what's going on in their government and their communities and everything else. And in reality, what it is a poison. Yeah. It's going into communities. When you have viewpoints like this, it's not a surprise that the derivation of that is like DEI that goes run amok. Yep. All the education system problems that we've seen pop up over the last few years. I mean, what they're doing is quite literally tearing communities apart.
100%.
Mm-hmm. Well, so here's the thing. So she later tried to claim, there's a strong firewall between me and the news division. You know, I don't run editorial. I'm the head of NPR, but trust me.
I'm just the CEO.
But even so, whatever, the whole organization is full of rot. It's up and down to the studs. It's full of rot and hatred for Republicans and an aversion to the truth if that truth reflects negatively on Democrats or positively on Republicans. And that's where the real problem is with NPR. It's not so much, she's fun to make fun of. But the real problem is that this really is Media Matters with a different moniker. That's how far left they are. And getting to how biased they are in their coverage, which, again, we're paying for, is really getting to the heart of the matter. That's what Jim Jordan tried to do in the following exchange, SOT 12.
He wrote on the Trump-Russia story, he wrote, at NPR, we hitched our wagon to Trump's most visible antagonist, Representative Adam Schiff. He said they interviewed him 25 times. Is that accurate?
I was not there at the time, but those numbers sound accurate. Yeah.
Those sound accurate. But then he said when the Mueller report came out, he said Russiagate faded from our programming. Is that accurate?
Again, I was not there at the time. I couldn't say.
You couldn't say?
I was not at NPR at the time.
You didn't prepare for that? You knew we were going to ask you about this guy, didn't you? It's come up 6,000 times already in the hearing.
I just couldn't say whether it faded from our coverage, sir.
How about this story? October 2020, the New York Post had the Hunter Biden laptop story. And one of those editors, I guess one of those 87 Democrat editors, said this: we don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories. We don't want to waste the listeners' and readers' times on stories that are just pure distractions. Was that a pure distraction story?
Our current editorial leadership believes that was a mistake, as do I.
Yeah, the whole country knows that was a mistake. Mr. Berliner said, we became fervent members of the team Natural Origin, even declaring that the lab leak was debunked by scientists.
Is there a question there?
There is. You guys were 0 for 3 on the three of the biggest stories in the last 5 years. You guys were 0 for 3, and yet you maintain that NPR is not biased?
Congressman, I do not believe we are politically biased. No, we are a nonpartisan organization.
Oh, my God.
Russiagate, Hunter laptop, and COVID. He exposed her. And he's exactly right. The mistakes only go in one direction.
Yeah. Well, I'm also reminded that none of this would be happening if not for a 2-seat majority in the House of Representatives. None of those questions would be asked in the first place. She would have no regrets about any of that at all. It's one of the things that we tell our listeners, and I know you tell your viewers and listeners as well, is you can't sort of relax and hope that everything is going to work out all right. Because but for 2 seats in the House of Representatives across this country, none of those questions would even be asked, much less contemplated by a woman who's clearly got an agenda to run national public airwaves as she sees fit, and as she sees fit is off the left-hand side of the map. Mm-hmm.
So true. They did a great job yesterday of exposing just how left they are. And they referenced back to that Uri Berliner piece in the Free Press. He won a Peabody. He was there for 25 years, very respected journalist who comes out to say, we've lost our way. I mean, we're hard left now. We don't care about truth. What we care about is protecting Dems and promoting them. And this came up because somebody was asking her, I think it was Jordan again, about what Uri posited in that piece, which was of the editors in the DC area alone. That's just the only one I checked. We found 87 Dems and 0 Republicans. And she actually had the nerve to try to say that was concerning to her. I think this is that SOT. Let's just watch a little bit of it. SOT 11.
Is NPR biased?
Congressman, I have never seen any instance of political bias determining editorial decisions. No.
Well, Mr. Berliner, in his story last year, wrote, in the D.C. area, editorial positions at NPR, he said he found 87 registered Democrats, 0 Republicans. Is that accurate?
We do not track the numbers or the voter registration, but I find that concerning.
Award-winning journalist who worked 25 years at NPR, Mr. Berliner, was he lying when he wrote that?
I am not presuming such. We don't track that information about our journalists.
87 to 0, and you're not biased.
I think that is concerning if those numbers are accurate.
Then do something about it. It's more dishonesty.
It's been a year.
She doesn't find that concerning. Right. It's been a year since Berliner's piece. And if she cared at all, they already would have been hired. They hired some 6-person editorial board to shore up their editorial over there, not one of whom is a Republican, right? There is no way forward in cutting out the majority of the country. Now, the majority is right-leaning and voted for Trump, out of the conversation entirely. And if you want to be that left-wing rag, right on, sister, you do you. That's why we have MSNBC and a lot of other organizations. But we don't have to pay for it.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's totally right. I mean, Johnny, you bring this up all the time, but they've had ample opportunity to rectify what was exposed by Berliner.
Right. And we all know what happened. She pretends like you heard what she said? She says, I was not there at the time that this was taking place. But when she started, the first thing she did right after she got her login and her password was to get rid of Uri Berliner because he had the temerity to say that maybe we shouldn't be so biased at this place. And so her dishonesty is multi-level in this whole interaction. And I really hope so many people saw this because they can see NPR for what it is. And finally, we can not have to pay for it.
It is wild that you could be the CEO, ostensibly the CEO of a company or organization, and have little to no idea of what goes on there. Right. And you admit that in a public hearing. It's like she doesn't know anything about the BLM tweets. She doesn't know anything that's happening at NPR. The only thing she's 100% sure of is that she's tweeted that Donald Trump is racist.
Right. And she's very glad that you brought that up. Very glad. So she could tell you it isn't true. I don't know why I said that. That was crazy talk. The funny thing is there was a report, I think it was Politico, after the hearing yesterday saying that, no, it was New York Times, Benjamin Mullen, who reported that supporters of public media were breathing a sigh of relief at the end of the hearing. One longtime public media executive texted me to say that neither chief executive, because PBS was also there, had made a major error yet. They don't get it, you guys.
No, they're living in a bubble with viewers like you and the members of the Paul R. and John D. MacArthur Foundation that are right alongside the rest of us as we contribute at gunpoint every April.
They're like, Catherine, it was stellar, right on point. That part where you said you didn't actually read the books, loved that part.
Right.
Didn't lay a glove on you. Okay, wait until you see your funding go away. I mean, probably, to be honest, the most important question there was that question we played of the guy being like, why'd you call Donald Trump a fascist, racist, sociopath? I meant it lovingly. That was probably the most important one because Trump already tweeting out, we need to defund these guys. They've got to go.
Yeah.
There's no point in us funding PBS. And all the Dems had was, but Elmo. Meanwhile, Sesame Street was sold to HBO in 2015.
Right.
Elmo is going to be just fine.
He's in the private sector now. He's doing great.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. The fellas are with me for the full show, and there's a lot more to get to. Stand by. As President Trump is settling into his new administration, one of the top Democrats in Congress aiming to undermine the Trump agenda is Democrat Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois. And according to our sponsor, the Electronic Payments Coalition, Senator Durbin has a new plan, a government takeover of your credit card. Today, Americans have thousands of choices in credit cards, but they say Senator Durbin's plan will result in less competition and less security, which means more risk for your credit and your identity. You can learn more for yourself at guardyourcard.org, and you could consider telling your senators to stop Dick Durbin's government takeover of your credit card before it's too late. Guys, there's been a lot of this in the news lately, and so I decided to save this segment for you. And I know we're going to get to Hack Madness, your own special version of March Madness, in a minute. But to put us in the mood, this is the appetizer to Hack Madness. I have my own little game for you. And this is more in the field of the Academy Awards. And I really would love for you guys to weigh in on who you think is, in fact, the best actress in America today, outside of Hollywood, okay? And I have got a couple of contenders for you. All right, I've narrowed it down to 4. And I'm going to show you how these people normally sound, and then how they sound when they get in front of certain audiences and certain cameras. And you're going to tell me who you think.
This is fantastic.
I see what's happening
Who
here.
wore it best? Who fooled you? Who's really who's phoning it in, and who's really going method? Okay. In 4th place, not necessarily 4th place. This is just, I'm going to start with as the 4th possibility, but I've got 4 total, and you'll decide what order they go in. I'm going to kick it off with AOC. Okay, her real name is Sandy Ocasio. This is what she went by her entire life, Sandy Ocasio. And only when she decided to run for office did she decide to suddenly become Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and lean into her Puerto Rican history, where her mother was born in Puerto Rico, but her father was born in New York City. And she decided to tell us sob stories about how she's from a poor family and she was living, paycheck to paycheck. Meanwhile, she was raised in a Tony part of Westchester called Yorktown Heights. The single family home she grew up in was just sold in 2016 for $355,000. So it's not exactly, food stamp central. She went to Boston University. To hear her tell her story, you'd think she never even went to college, right? She was only a bartender. No, she went to Boston University and graduated with a BA in International Relations and Economics, and then spent some time as a waitress and a bartender. Good for you. Virtually everyone in America did too.
Who didn't?
I mean, literally, raise your hand if you had a service personnel job.
Oh my God, yes.
Right. All of us, all 5 of us. Hello. The difference is we don't run around asking for people to pat us on the back because we did it. It's called being a normal human. When you're young, you take those kinds of jobs, and even when you're older, sometimes you do, to pay your bills. This is called being a normal human, not, oh, woe is me, I worked as a waitress. And I'll get to some of what she's saying around that. But that's her story. Now she makes almost $200,000 a year as a U.S. Congresswoman and is still pretending that she's on her waitress salary. But in any event, here is how she normally sounds when she's speaking and not thinking about who's listening or trying to fool anybody.
When Donald Trump tapped into this idea of Make America Great Again, there was times of economic opportunity. Wages rose until the 1970s.
They should have taught her at Boston University. There were times. She was right. You got to get that subject verb agreement. I know it's tough, Sandy. Work on it. That's her, though, sounding relatively normal. Then there's a different version that we've heard a lot more of a lot recently.
I'm proud to be a bartender. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Ain't
There's nothing
nothing wrong.
with working retail, folding clothes for other people to buy. And I, for one,
we know.
am tired of hearing about how a 2-bit union buster thinks of himself as more of a patriot than the woman who fights every single day to lift working people out from under the boots of greed, trampling on our way of life.
Our way of life. All right, so you got that in mind? You're with me?
It'd be tough to beat.
It is, but we have contenders. All right. Now I'm going to go outside of the political realm for this next one. You'll know her as soon as you see her, I think. Let's play the normal version of the person whose name is Hillary, who grew up in a very nice suburb of Boston, going to some Tony Rich school that virtually no one else can afford. I think her dad is a dentist, but now goes by Hilaria Baldwin. Here she is sounding like her normal self.
It's not easy, and I think part of it is that I'm in shape before I have a baby, and then I stay active when I'm pregnant, and I'm not trying to stay thin. I'm just trying to keep my circulation going and stretching and keep my muscle tone up.
And then?
Married life is really nice. You know, it feels different.
No way.
You know that. So please, leave my family in peace and let this all play out. We have cucumbers, aceite de oliva.
How do you say?
Olive oil, and we have some vinegar.
Vinegar. We have some vinegar.
That so much. That's so funny.
She sounds like Penelope Cruz.
I'm with it.
I'm making it tough for you.
How do you say cucumber?
Yeah, you're such a fucking hypocrite.
That's the vinegar. Okay. So already I'm torn. I gotta say, just to be honest, I'm not sure who I like better on Best Actress, but we've got other contenders. So, keep an open mind. This woman all over the news these days, the new spokesperson for the Democrat Party, and we all hope the future of it. Here is Jasmine Crockett as recently as 2023, again, sounding like a normal person.
My mind, I'm thinking, I just got to Austin and I had to beat 5 people to get here. It's a huge responsibility. You know, the congressional seat is over 4 times as large as my House seat.
Kind of cute, excited, optimistic, normal hair, normal eyelashes, and probably normal nails, though they weren't shown in that clip. Flash forward to today's day and age, and more recently, and we've done a 180.
If you could speak directly to Elon Musk, what would you say?
Fuck off. Now, I am tired of the white tears.
There has been no oppression for the white man in this country. That it is white men on this side of the aisle telling us, people of color on this side of the aisle, that y'all are the ones being oppressed.
If you could tell Donald Trump anything tonight, what would you tell him?
Stop being Putin's hoe. Unfortunately, we had an opportunity to have a woman lead this country, and I promise you she would have led us to the promised land. But instead, we got somebody that seems like he want to take us to hell and back again.
We have someone that is occupying the White House, and as far as I'm concerned, he is an enemy to the United States.
We are going to be in your face. We are going to be on your asses, you and your little friend off of Twitter. Y'all about to find out, all right?
Ooh.
Y'all about to find out, all right? Do I need to say it again? As I will. She sounds absolutely nothing like she used to, you guys. Nothing.
I mean, that's fake it till you make it. That's how you become the head of the Democrat Party. It's absolute fakery.
I have to confess that I love her.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do. I just do.
Reason.
I love everything about her. She's fantastic. The best spokesperson for Democrats. Yeah, exactly.
Right? We do. We need a whole lot more of her. It's amazing how she's now like street, right? Like, I'm going to whip somebody's head. Okay, sure. We'll look forward to that, Jasmine. Okay. No segment like this would be complete without our fourth candidate. And honestly, she's probably got the inside track, and you'll see why. Here she was, sounding normal.
Let's talk about respecting the American people. You respect the American people when you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have the courage to be a leader speaking of those things that you may not want people to hear, but they need to hear.
Note how she said courage and hear, where we had R's being used properly. And yet, when she ran for president, having been passed the baton by Joe Biden, very, very different sounding. Here it is.
Have you no empathy, man?
Yes.
You know, for the suffering of other people. Have you no sense of purpose?
You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid
You
leave.
better.
You better thank a union member for vacation time. You all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024.
We go.
Hello to all my divine nine brothers and sisters. And my sorors.
This is a margin of error race. It's tight. I'm going to win. I'm going to win.
God.
But it's tight.
Oh, my God.
Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. The path may seem hard, the work may seem heavy, but joy cometh in the morning, and church morning is on its way.
Oh, man. That's me Saturday night with a bourbon.
Come on.
Have you no decency, man?
Come on, you know?
Little Cool Runnings reference for the listener.
We're going to win. Who is going to win this little contest, gentlemen? Is there a clear number one?
I mean, I just have such secondhand embarrassment every time you play the second half of those clips. You watch it.
You have to pick one, Holmes.
Desk.
You can't. You have to pick one.
I mean, I just, for me, the Hillary, what makes her special is like they all have this there's beautifully presented juxtaposition. But what makes her special is pretending that she didn't know the word cucumber. That is special. To me, you're talking about.
That's a commitment to the bit.
That's such a commitment to the bit, right? I mean, it's like, no, I don't understand the English language. I'm going to pretend that I don't know what a cucumber is.
Yeah, you said you love Jasmine Crockett. I love Ilaria. I love her so much. I love that she tries to sound like Penelope Cruz. It makes me want to buy a Cessna and start running drugs.
Wait, we're going to come back to Ilaria in 1 second. But I mean, I feel like you might be giving short shrift to Jasmine, right? Who's like, that the 2023 version is so sweet. You like her. You're like, I see why Houstonians said, yeah, let's send this gal to Congress. Before she was like, bitch, I will cut you. Whoa, wait, what?
Here's
what
the thing.
happened?
I think, among those selections that you gave us, number one, it overlooks lifetime achievement Hillary Clinton, who famously, when she goes in the South, all of a sudden is a Southerner.
Lifetime
but in those choices, 3 of those people are doing it out of political expediency. Yeah. They're just your standard run-of-the-mill political crook trying to pander.
Points for that, right?
Yeah. Well, I take away points. So that's commonplace. In D.C., it's a dime a dozen finding someone who's going to lie and just play to the audience to get what they want out of them. Hilaria Baldwin is just crazy.
She's doing it for the love of the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is the love of the game. Nuts. It's so pure. It comes from a pure place of like, I want to be crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to be totally
and I love
nuts.
it.
Yeah, you're right,
and Alec
guys.
totally buys in, right? Like he goes on the late night shows. He's like, my wife, she's from Spain. She's in the kitchen cooking.
Right.
Literally, she grew up in Boston. Wait, what? She's definitely not from Spain. What are you saying?
2 Bostonians in this, by the way, which is an interesting. Maybe there's a regional issue there.
Boston University's just got a reputation of putting out horrible people. I think
who's the other Bostonian?
Seriously, I think this is a known thing. Like a lot of people from Boston University, just problems. It's a known thing.
You're gonna get hate mail for that.
Wait, Holmes, who is the other Bostonian? Ilaria, Hillary.
Well, no, BU. You've got AOC.
Oh. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah. And I don't think she found that accent until she left Boston, right? I mean, I've seen some clips of her at BU where none of that.
Yeah.
She was looked like a sorority girl.
Mm-hmm. No, honestly. Yeah. It's truly like if I were running for mayor of Chicago next year and I'm running around going, top of the morning to you. Like it's obvious. what you're doing.
Megan's doing that. Oh, hey, what's going on? We just got here in Chicago, just looking out for the crime on the streets and all that.
Watching out for my wee ones. Okay. Speaking of Ilaria, I think so. We all agree. Are we all in agreement that Ilaria won, or would you guys like to disagree?
Anybody have anything?
Man, it's so hard to disagree with that.
Yeah.
It is. I would say that Kamala deserves special points for doing it on a national stage.
When you know everyone is watching.
Right.
Yeah.
And in so many different flavors, right?
Yeah.
Let's
like
give her do.
You know what?
Pastor,
Actually, that's worth consideration.
Variety.
It's worth consideration. Megan is she has a full spectrum of options.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want Jamaican, we got some of that, right?
Totally.
We can go urban. We can go
Southern.
workforce. We can go Southern.
Yep.
I mean, there's versatility. So if it's a best actor,
it's multiple
Not everyone can
personality
do that.
disorder.
No, but if you're a Hollywood casting agent,
Dexterity and talent.
like if you're casting for SNL, that you gotta go with Kamala. She can do any bit. You know, we can go
take it.
Rastafarian. Have you no decency, man? Right? We can go Latina. We can go preacher. We can do the black sant. Whatever. I don't know what she's doing there with her little urban whatever.
She seamlessly transitions from Bob Marley to MLK.
It's amazing.
And you're right. There is.
That accent, it's like her channeling John Ossoff channeling Barack Obama. So it's like a copy of a copy. You know?
That's a tough
third
one.
rate.
All right. So while we're on the subject of Ilaria, she and Alec have this reality TV show. It must not be doing well because they're clearly now making a point of doing and saying very weird things to try to get into segments like the one that I'm doing right now. And it's working because they're very strange people. And the following clip went everywhere. We could have raised it earlier in the week, but we saved it for our friends from the Variety program. And you will see why.
Seen one of the loves of her life naked.
Not the love of my life.
He was one of the loves of her life. I mean, we went to go see him on Broadway, and he was naked. We went to go see Take Me Out, the musical that our dear friend Scott Ellis directed, and all these baseball players were in the locker room, and they were all turned around naked with their dongs hanging out. And he's there, her boyfriend, and I recognize him. I met him before. And when he turns around with his personality hanging out, I'm like, okay. He had like a clarinet hanging from his pants. The guy literally turns around and we were all like, whoa. We go out into the lobby, we meet them all. And her boyfriend comes in, I'm like, hey, how you doing?
And I was like, I'm going to stay over here.
And you can't pay attention to a word he's saying. He's standing right here talking to me. I'm sitting looking at him going, and he's looking at me going, yeah, you know, the show and this and that and this. And I'm like, you have like a baseball bat that you stuff into your pants every day. How was that working for you? Well, let's move on from that subject.
Oh, that's good
can't
TV.
Speak currently.
I've actually seen that clip. He ends it with saying, it had to be said. It had to be said.
There's a lot going on there. Is dong an appropriate word for the fellow down south in Rio? I thought that was much more of a dated reference from like 16 Candles. Dong, is that still in the vernacular?
You know, we've got a lot that we explore on this topic. Probably not appropriate for the SiriusXM crowd, but we have many nicknames that we could probably share with people. Dong is a pretty common vernacular, but not necessarily one that you would use to describe your wife's ex-boyfriend.
But in general, you're telling me it's still in favor. This is good to know. How about the personality? He referred to it as the personality. He turned around with his personality out. That's got to be a new one.
That's new to me. Also new, and I thought innovative, was the clarinet. Right. That was something that was brand new. That
makes it sound like there's somewhat of a skin problem.
Also alludes to how it was used, perhaps. I'm sorry. You know what? This is a classy show.
Was that wrong?
Sorry.
And then, what was the last thing? Oh, the baseball bat. The baseball bat. Because it really hurt Alec. I think that's why that came to mind. It really hurt him.
Yeah. You don't want to think about stuff like that.
Has anyone given a moment's thought to those that came before them with their spouse? I'm not sure this is, maybe it's just because you haven't seen them naked.
what struck me, he keeps referring to the guy as her boyfriend, like present tense. And all it did was remind me of President Trump. What's the name of that dinner that happens in New York? Al Smith dinner, where he was like, I'm talking about the dudes for Kamala. You know, they're all voting for Kamala, but it's fine because all their wives and wives' boyfriends are voting for me. Sounds like Alec Baldwin. I think he was talking about you.
That's probably right.
I don't know what's going on in that strange relationship, but I do know they're actively seeking attention because they need ratings on their show. Okay. I feel like I would be remiss if I did not mention, as we're talking about people who have changed themselves dramatically, in mentioning a Republican controversy today that involves Kristi Noem. So Kristi Noem is our Department of Homeland Security head, as you know. She's a controversial pick. The reason she wasn't chosen for vice president was probably that ridiculous memoir she wrote confessing to killing her puppy Cricket, who she shot in the face for no reason, before she killed their goat. And I don't know, like a set of horses. No, not really. I know horses died, just the puppy and the family goat. And then the daughter got off the bus and was like, where's Cricket? Anyway, there was that. There was an alleged affair with Corey Lewandowski, which was reported by the Daily Mail, which we talked about in the show. She got probably downgraded off of VP and she got made DHS. And I said to this audience, well, I will be rooting for her because that is a very big job. And what we've seen so far is a lot of photo ops. Okay, she went on, was it Fox News, wearing her like FBI DHS jacket, like she just finished a field operation while she was actually doing the arrests. Like, that's cosplaying. All right, we'll show you that picture when we get it. Then we saw her out there rounding up illegals on her horse with her cowboy hat, which I said, all right, I'm going to have to give her a pass on that because she actually was raised on a ranch in South Dakota. That's not necessarily cosplaying, right? Like that could... But it was obviously a curated photo op that she put together to make sure she looked. And in all this, she's got false eyelashes, heavy eyeliner, the big lips with all the gloss, the heavy blush. You know, she's camera ready. Like I would be for doing a television hit, but maybe not while I was riding the horses and like capturing illegals. And then she went next level last night. By the way, this is after she got in trouble for like being a spokesperson for a dental office when she was still the governor of South Dakota and showing off her fake veneers, which she's really proud of. Like she's very obsessed with the new look, which is dramatically different than the old look. And then we see her last night dropping this video from that El Salvadorian prison. Watch.
I also want everybody to know if you come to our country illegally, this is one of the consequences you could face. First of all, do not come to our country illegally. You will be removed and you will be prosecuted. But know that this facility is one of the tools in our toolkit that we will use if you commit crimes against the American people.
Okay. Standing behind her in a cage are dozens of shirtless prisoners in the El Salvadorian jail, looking kind of scared, confused. They're being used as props for her photo op in her skin-tight shirt with her hair perfectly curled and coiffed, and again, the makeup, as she tries to sound tough with these prisoners behind her as her background, as like truly her human props in her photo. And I'm telling you, you guys, it's fucked up. I have no empathy for Venezuelan gang members who wound up in an El Salvadorian jail. But this is messed up. I mean, truly, like to use them in this way as her backdrop to show us how cool she is and how tough she is gross and utterly unhelpful to those of us who have been out there arguing that Trump is within his rights to round up these illegals in America and send them there with very limited due process. Utterly unhelpful. So, any thoughts on that?
You know, she's had a tendency in recent years. I mean, she started as a congresswoman from South Dakota, wonderful, cute. Like I got to know her staff and whatnot a little bit on Capitol Hill. But in recent years, if she's got a major glaring weakness, it's that she gets out in front a little too public of a way. I mean, one of the things that caught my eye early on in the administration was them deciding that they were going to run a bunch of public service announcements using, taxpayer dollars, but with her basically to camera. And I think the challenge for that is you're in Donald Trump's administration, and Donald Trump's the star of this show, right? It's not Kristi Noem, and I think everybody sort of understands that. Mm-hmm. At least it seems that this administration understands that a lot better than the first time around. But she's kind of getting herself into a territory where it's a little overexposed. I mean, everybody knows that Tom Homan is walking around, literally showing up in a different place every day, deporting some incredibly violent gang member somewhere, and he's getting the job done. And the best, his only publicity at all is when some journo asks him a horrible question and he just dresses him down and moves on, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's a better approach.
I don't remember another DHS secretary showing up for TV hits like this. Hold on, we'll put it on the board. Like trying to look at her with the long dangling earrings and the hat and like the jacket. This is, the whole thing feels like an act. And I'm all for women taking over these powerful, tough, important positions, but I'm embarrassed for how she's presenting herself while doing it. Like, maybe it's time, and as you know, I'm not really in a position to cast stones here from my made-up face at my desk, but I can guarantee you that if I became Secretary of Homeland Security, I would not be laying on the lip gloss, the lashes, and the blush before I started talking about illegals I made sure wound up in El Salvador, or cosplaying up with my DHS wear before I went on Fox News. This is a deeply insecure person. And I'm sorry, but it doesn't, who are we if we only have honest talk for the left? This is honest talk from someone who's a Trump supporter that he needs to rein her in because she's becoming an embarrassment.
It's all a little much, all of the stuff, the ads, that, the video in front of the prison. And the reason why, back to Holmes's point, is like, it seems sort of excessive in spiking the football, and you're getting out ahead of the Trump administration. Let Donald Trump talk about how he wants to talk about the El Salvadorian.
And by the way, there's ongoing
litigation
over exactly what it is that she's talking about there. I mean, that I guarantee you will be entered as an exhibit in that courtroom.
The one thing I would say in her defense is like, the PSAs, if it gets people to self-deport, fantastic. If that video, in front of those criminals gets less migrants to try to cross the border and smuggle drugs and fentanyl into this country, good.
I take your point. I see that. Now, actually, in her defense, when she put that out last night, it's getting way more likes than it is getting criticism. And most of the people criticizing it are like on the left and against this policy to begin with. So I think I'm in a unique spot because I actually support this policy and I want more illegal gang members deported to El Salvador. However, the way to convince Judge Boasberg, who will be the ultimate trier of fact on this, that we're not winning this fight right now. We just lost at the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court may not take it immediately. So Judge Boasberg is in control at the moment, is really not to give him more reasons to suspect what kind of treatment they're going to have down in El Salvador, and to take them and make them look like little lab rats behind prison bars, looking dazed and confused and shirtless as she stands there totally glammed to the nines, is a bad fucking move. I can say this as a lawyer. This is not what you'd want introduced into the record, Kristi. And what should have been done, Duncan, to your point on deterrence, is let's stick with the video we have that's already out there of the prisoners being processed. It's bad enough, frankly, of them bent over and being like, put assembly line and as they get checked out and put into the prison. Like, I'm not really that comfortable with that, but it's fine. Like, these are gang members. These are fucking people who killed Americans. So, cry me a river, some of them. But there is a debate about who got in there that shouldn't have. There were two mistakes made. A woman got in and she was sent back home. A guy from Nicaragua, who clearly is not a Venezuelan gang member, got in and he was sent back home. Anyway, I'm just saying right now we're debating over how much due process they should get while we figure out whether they really are Tren de Aragua and whether we should have shipped them to this prison. And shots of them looking, maybe it's for the camera, whatever, but like scared and disoriented and a little shell-shocked aren't helpful. Okay, that's my take on the matter. Feel free to disagree. My audience often does with me, but that's what we love about each other. Megyn at MegynKelly.com.
Can I take a quick break? 1 second to be?
Yeah. Go ahead, Smoke.
The not the voice of rationality like you have been. I support it. I support it.
That's good. I like it.
I know
it's
a bad take, but I like it and I support it. All the Democrats at their debate raised their hands and said, I'll give illegals free health care. If you have an attractive woman, it gets more eyes online. And what they're going to see is, shoot, if I try to enter the country illegally, I'm going to end up in this cage with a bunch of terrible people, and that doesn't look fun. I know it's absolutely bad for the legal system. And I'm counting on the Supreme Court to hurry up and do its job and help us out there. We can make bad decisions along the way. We can have a little bit of fun.
This is our resident nihilist.
He's the devil on our shoulder.
It's funny because I'm really against these people. And I trust in Tom Homan's ability to figure out whether they're Venezuelan gang members. I really do. He is not running around willy-nilly just picking random Hispanics as the left would have you believe.
Right.
But it's another thing to put that on display and ask Americans to be like, all right, sure, I'm fine with zero due process before we do that, right? Like, because that's really what Trump is asking for under the Alien Enemies Act. And look, I've defended it repeatedly on the show, but I just feel like, maybe it's a woman thing, maybe I'm too soft, but for me, that was too much. It was like, you look like you're on the backs of people who are in a lot of trouble. We understand that. And most of us are okay with them having to sort that out. But you look like you're trying to make it into a photo op about you looking tough, as opposed to a serious and sober legal issue that we're really regretful we have to deal with, but we do have to deal with thanks to Joe Biden. And you should not look like this is a fun thing for you to do and you're going to wear your skin tight shirt and go down there and try to look hot and threatening. It's to me is a big turnoff. Okay, sorry, stole the last word, but I appreciate the disagreement and keep them coming. All right, stand by, quick break, more after this. The IRS is the largest collection agency in the world. And with April 15th fast approaching, it's more aggressive than ever. If you owe back taxes or have unfiled returns, waiting is not an option. April 15th could mark another tax year that has passed you by. So the smart move is to get ahead of it now. But listen, never contact the IRS alone. Instead, you could let the experts at Tax Network USA handle it for you. Why? Well, not all tax resolution companies are the same. Tax Network USA has a preferred direct line to the IRS, so they know exactly which agents to deal with and which to avoid. With proven strategies to settle tax problems in your favor, whether you owe 10 grand or 10 million, Tax Network USA's attorneys and negotiators have already resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. Speak with one of their strategists today for free. Don't let the IRS control your future. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Megyn. That's tnusa.com/Megyn. April 15th, just around the corner. Act now before the IRS acts first. There's a lot of talk about government debt, but after 4 years of inflation, another real crisis is personal debt. Some people are working harder than ever and still drowning in credit card debt and overdue bills. But there is Done with Debt. Done with Debt has unique escape strategies to help end your debt fast so you keep more of your hard-earned money and have more to spend. Done with Debt does not try to sell you a loan or bankruptcy. They're tough negotiators. They go one-on-one with your credit card and loan companies with one goal: to drastically reduce your bills, eliminate interest, and erase penalties. Most clients end up with more money in their pocket month one, and they don't stop until they break you free from debt permanently every month. Take a few minutes and visit donewithdebt.com. Speak with one of their strategists. It's free. But listen up, some of their solutions are time sensitive, so you're going to need to move quickly. Go to donewithdebt.com. That's donewithdebt.com. So Hack Madness is a play on March Madness, and I liked the top four. Your number one seeds, this is for hacks in the media, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, are Nicole Wallace, Eugene Daniels of Politico, but now he's got a show on MSNBC, Nora O'Donnell, and Margaret Brennan. I like it. I like it a lot.
big year for CBS.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Smug is our resident bracketologist here. We all put a lot of work into the seedings this year. This is our 5th annual, Megan, and every year it's a body of work, right? You got to do a lot of things throughout a calendar year in order to qualify for the tournament. And then we seed you appropriately on how we thought you did throughout the year.
And that's the thing is, so, I mean, it starts with 66. We have 2 playing games. We're talking about, it's the same size as March Madness. There are 64 hacks that are going head to head. It gets voted on online on X. It's huge. I mean, we've so far had, throughout the history of these, over 10 million votes cast. So, I mean, it's bigger than some congressional races in terms of the number of votes that go into this. But also, it's so great because I tag every single one of these hacks. I at them on X every single time. And very frequently, I get blocked. They start tweeting about how mad they are. They're like, I'm so unbiased. And then without fail, they get all these replies of screenshots of like Russiagate nonsense and everything else. But like Holmes said, it's their previous year's body of work that goes into deciding it. And I think, to me, the story of this year is that 2 CBS people got the #1 seed in each of their divisions. Further, they were the 2 who also managed a vice president debate. Like, this has to stop too.
Yeah, it's really remarkable.
Yeah, this is like that trans movie about the Colombian guy who wanted to be trans and they got all the nominations. That's CBS right now. They got all the nominations in Hack Madness. But I have one bone to pick because it seems that the latest matchup has this Eugene Daniels up against Don Lemon, who's only an 8 seed. What kind of disrespect is that to Don Lemon's hackness?
This is very, very, very important, Megan. And we have a proprietary methodology. In college basketball, Ken Pomeroy has this Ken Pom, which he uses as like a quotient to rank basketball teams. We have this methodology that includes everything from like how liberal they are,
exposure,
how crazy they are, how much of a liar they are, and then exposure. And like Don Lemon dropped in the seeding because his quotient and exposure has gone down a little.
He's been fired twice.
Yeah.
That's right. I've never seen Duncan this animated about any other subject that we've ever discussed with him.
I put a lot of thought into this. It included
Duncan did a lot of work.
It included a lot of numbers. I might be on the spectrum. It's,
Now, is it like the NCAA March Madness where we've learned this year there's no more Cinderella stories because it's basically because we're allowing the athletes to make money and so they can switch to schools and they're leaving their small schools and they're all going to the big schools.
That's a good comparison.
So is that what's happening in Hack Madness too? Or could there be a sleeper surprise? Like I would say Eugene Daniels kind of a sleeper surprise. Most people, not a household name.
No, not a household name. I mean, there's an inherent bias as we've done this over 5 years for people who are on TV. They're recognizable. All the crazy stuff that they've done is visual, so people can actually see it. There's an inherent bias against print, whose body of work, might I say, is extraordinary. But they don't get the kind of representation that's necessary to make it all the way to the Final Four in this kind of thing. We're hoping that sort of works its way out a little bit, but there's only like 6 print journalists left after one round. So, yeah, I mean, this is, household names go a long way.
And there were some newcomers that went down really hard in the first round. And I'm telling you, I mean, as much as some of these people have tried their best, they are not going to overcome Margaret Brennan. She has done yeoman's work building towards this championship, and I don't think she's going to be denied this year.
A real powerhouse.
Wait, what did Jeffrey Goldberg even make the dance? He was probably not even on your radar.
No, he was a bubble team. He was a bubble team.
He was a bubble team, but it happened. All of this happened a week after the bracket came out, and so
sorry, sir. Late submission.
He could have been, in terms of what he's done lately, a serious contender.
After that soundbite we played at the top of the show, I could have elevated him a couple of seeds at least.
I know. We have some upsets, Michael?
This is breaking news because the next round of Hack Madness is currently live
Voting is happening
on
now.
X.
Everyone visit Comfortably Smug on X.
Can people still get in on this, you guys, or is it too late?
Well,
like NCAA?
Yeah,
where do they go?
Vote. Well, Eugene,
you vote at Comfortably Smug on X. I have it pinned right on my profile.
Yeah, I mean, Eugene Daniels right now is losing to Don Lemon. He's a 1 seed. Don Lemon's an 8 seed.
Upset.
Support it.
Anna Navarro's beating Chris Hayes.
Oh, that's
right
surprising.
now.
Oh,
it's very surprising. Keith Olbermann is beating Sunny Hostin. She was a 2 seed.
Boy, she did a lot of work this year.
The View is really like the power of the View has really started to wane.
Yeah. Well, and Joy, what's her name got from the View got knocked out.
Joy Behar.
Joy Behar. What about Joy? What'd you do with Joy Reid? Because now no visibility, but I mean, very high up on the hackery scale.
Body of work throughout the year, right? She had that kind of visibility throughout a calendar year, and so she richly deserved.
Well, and it's paying off for Ana Navarro, right? Because in addition to like that, she's also going on like Bill Maher, and she's on CNN a lot, and so all that visibility means she's going to make a long run here in the tournament.
All to crown the biggest hack in all of political reporting.
Who did you guys pick? You know how we have to pick our number one. This year I went with Duke for all sorts of reasons on the other bracket, which is completely collapsed, by the way, my bracket. But who do you guys have for number one? Did you all pick different people?
I think we might have picked different people. I will say I had 3 CBS people in my final 4, but I ultimately ended up going with Nicole Wallace. I thought her making fun of the kid at the State of the Union
very
was
good.
Just it's a recency bias, perhaps, but sometimes that propels a team.
I mean, I have to go with Margaret Brennan. She goes in, day out with the hackery. It started, her like Cinderella run started at that VP debate. And then you saw things as recent as when she tried to go after Marco Rubio on Sunday. Like she keeps at it week after week with the hackery.
Humiliation finish.
Yeah, I'm with Smug on this. I'm counting on America's love of J.D. Vance, America's love of memes, and America's hatred of Margaret. You know, I don't really care, Margaret.
I don't care, Margaret. It was just a huge moment.
It became a whole thing.
I'm also a big believer in Margaret Brennan this year. You know, this tournament. Yeah, I
big
did.
believer.
I did, because this tournament is about the big moments, like what she did in the debate. It's also about doing, what you're doing when nobody else is watching.
Day in, day out.
That's her show. Nobody watches her show. But in the big moments, when like Marco Rubio dunks on her or JD Vance dunks on her, that's on X. People see it. She's performing well then too. So I'm telling you, I think this is hers to lose.
Yeah.
Who was it? Which blonde news anchor was it who said to JD, like, only a few apartment buildings have been taken over by the Venezuelan gangs? Who was that, Steve? Was it Martha
might have been
Raddatz?
Martha Raddatz.
Yeah, it was
I
Martha
think it
Raddatz.
was Martha Raddatz. We didn't see
She
enough
should get
of
an
her this
honorable
year.
mention in there. That was
we
like
didn't see
a,
enough of her. But she
it's
was a bubble
true.
team.
The exposure's low. Yeah, she could be a bubble.
Low exposure. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Catherine
look, it's
Mayer,
tough.
Mar, she got in there super late, media executive. God, if she had just had this testimony, what might have been. In any event,
I will tell you, though, Megyn, there's one really special Cinderella story in this year's tournament. A former champion who had not made the bracket for a couple of years due to an unfortunate employment situation has made a return and is now working his way through the bracket. The potato himself, Brian Stelter.
Such a story. Gets fired by CNN, begs his way back.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's a 3-seed
fighter.
It's what's built this country.
How can you root against him? I can only imagine the halftime speech he's giving the rest of the team. Great. While we're on the subject of actresses and awards and hacks, do we have a moment for Rachel Zegler and Snow White? Because there is an update in that story today. There was an in-depth piece, like a behind-the-scenes piece. Was it Variety? Talking about how they've been in a full meltdown about this girl for a couple of years now, and how they had her tweet out like a little, "Yay, Snow White, can't wait, so excited, I love to play her." And she did it and got like millions of views, and they were like, "Good job, Rachel." And then she, like minutes later, followed it up with, "And never forget, free Palestine." This is just like a few months after 10/7. It was like, it hadn't even been a year. And they were like, my God, what?
And isn't her co-star Jewish?
Yes, Gal Gadot, whatever.
Gadot. I mean, what? Yeah. Wow.
She's Jewish, and apparently this actually, all hell broke loose. Gal started getting death threats. She's Israeli, and I think served in the IDF.
She did.
They flew an executive, one of the producers, out to go visit personally with Rachel Zegler to say, could you please take that down? Because we understand you can have your political views, but those aren't really helpful while you're trying to build an audience for a movie. Maybe you could save them for like your diary and your friends, but like maybe not, maybe just take the tweet down. And she wouldn't. And then they had to hire a special media consultant for her to follow her around all the time and make sure she didn't continue shitting on Snow White and the prince and young love and women who want to get married and Steven Spielberg, the executive producer of her previous movie, and white people who she claims wanted to know if she was really a Latina on her first movie. Like, the list was really long. And then the son of that producer who got on the plane to go over and say, would you please, for the love of God, take this down? And she wouldn't, was all on Instagram yesterday admitting it all. The Variety report being like, of course, what would you do when you have this narcissistic nightmare trying to ruin a film that you've put hundreds of millions of dollars into, that's employing all these working class people? She refused to keep her fat mouth shut. It was a great spilling of the tea. And so I don't think she's in the running toward the real Academy Awards. She wasn't, right? She was not nominated for this past year because the film hadn't come out. But you tell me, you're not Hollywood guys, but you are political oddsmen. So what do you think the odds are of this person working ever again?
I don't know. Doesn't it seem like it's almost a prerequisite in Hollywood? I mean, maybe things have changed a little bit. Didn't they? Megyn, tell me, isn't this the one where they actually took the dwarves out of the Seven Dwarves?
Yes. We have CGI dwarves now.
Okay. Yeah, because little people didn't need jobs either. Yeah. But it's
Peter Dinklage wanted the whole field to himself. Went out there and was like, this is insulting. Unless it's me.
He kicked the ladder.
Yeah, he got his money in Hollywood. And now he's like,
nicely done, Smug. The ladder.
That was nicely done.
That was low.
No, but I mean, he got his money acting as a little person. Now he's saying it's demeaning for them to have those roles. He acted as a dwarf on like the most popular show on TV for 10 years, made millions of dollars. Now he's like, how dare people hire dwarves to act as dwarves? It's ridiculous. He got his money and then kicked the ladder down behind him.
The thing that really shocks me about this story, Disney and all these media companies, they invest hundreds of millions of dollars into these projects, right? Have they ever thought about maybe like a little bit of like, I don't know, vulnerability study, opposition research, that sort of thing before you go and hire some Zoomer who's a lunatic?
Yeah, but they're all lunatic. I mean, how many people in Hollywood, maybe not to this extent, but how many people do you hear about actors you love? You love what? Look at Robert De Niro. I love like basically every movie he's ever done. Every time that guy opens his mouth as a private citizen, I'm like, oh my God, you can't possibly believe that. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you're trying to vulnerability study it, where do you start?
Yeah.
I don't think they're all this bad. I think most young ingenues can be scared into just being quiet until the movie comes out, at least. Like, please give the movie a chance, understanding that Republicans buy sneakers too, to quote Michael Jordan. Like, just give it a chance.
There are a few actors now that are less afraid of sort of showing their conservative roots.
It's also a generational thing. I mean, her generation has basically grown up being told, every opinion you have, post it online, share it with the world. You're the most special person. The world revolves around you. Everyone has to change to fit your beliefs because you're so special and you're so important and everything you say is validated and that's your truth. And that's not going away anytime soon. The other problem is Disney keeps doing this shit.
Yeah.
They don't care how many times they lose money. I mean, they're
going to learn a lesson on this one, though.
I don't think so. I mean, they're projected to lose between $200 and $400 million on this. I mean, they're not going to learn their lesson.
About a third of what Democrats lost on Kamala Harris. And I will tell you that I think that this woman will be the governor of California. I think she is going to run, and I think that Californians are looking for a step up from Gavin Newsom. And I think they found their candidate. I think she's going to be the governor.
Maybe a formidable voice of the left.
Here's some good news. Speaking of the woke wars, Anheuser-Busch declines for the first time in over 30 years to sponsor the Pride Fest parade in St. Louis. They will not. That's Bud Light learning its lesson. They won't sponsor the Pride Fest, and several other companies are saying we're out. This LGBTQ Pride Fest is now openly complaining, saying, we don't understand. DEI is somehow becoming a bad word. We need these partners. We need them now more than ever. And they've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars as various companies refuse to pitch in, including, reportedly, according to the New York Times, Booz Allen Hamilton, Deloitte, Comcast. an auto dealership group, Darcars, and then there's Bud Light, all saying not interested. This is a huge victory in an important battle that we've all been fighting. Will it continue, guys? What do you think?
Yeah, I do think it will continue, at least for a while. I mean, all of these companies are ultimately in the business of making money and providing value to shareholders. And you look at election results, and for the first time, they're not talking to just a far left shakedown artist. They're looking at the American people, and they want to change it.
Mm-hmm. It's wonderful to see that they're learning their lesson. Go ahead, Ashbrook. You got 30 seconds.
I was just going to say, I grew up in a very small town. We had a 4th of July parade every year, and I don't remember giant corporate sponsors coming in to make people turn out for that. So I'm guessing if this parade is as popular as that one, then maybe people will still show.
Yeah, they can make it happen without all these corporate dollars. And these corporations are looking at people like Chris Rufo and Robbie Starbuck, who's been doing such a good job of shaming them for continuing DEI policies that are divisive and racist and sexist. And we've all got our eyes on them now. They know they have real skin in this game. They will not be universally praised. They will be publicly humiliated with their core audience, like Bud Light was. So I love it. It's progress. Great to see you, fellas. See you soon.
Great to see you, Megyn. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow with Halpern and the morning meeting crew. See you then.